Okay, so welcome everybody to today's presentation. Just a couple of housekeeping things as we begin. If you could just put yourselves on mute while the presentation is going on, then feel free to unmute yourself to ask any questions that you have. And if you feel more comfortable and want to use the text chat, you could do that too. And I'll watch out for those questions and let Maddy know that what they are. So I'm just going to do an introduction here. Bear with me half sec here. Okay, so Maddy Aucoin is a creative copywriter from Ontario, Canada. She's a former academic. Maddy is a proud owner of a bachelor's degree in English and history and a master's degree in history. She started her company copywriting business by Maddy Aucoin to help value-based entrepreneurs stop hiding behind their business and start sharing their authentic selves with the world through marketing. So I want to welcome Maddy, and I apologize if I messed up your last name. I'm so sorry.
That's totally okay, Lori. Hi, everyone. It is so lovely to be here. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen so you can see the presentation that I've prepared. So we'll go ahead and just get that done. There we go. Here. All right. Oops, let's start at the beginning. There we go. Awesome. All right. So welcome, everyone. As Lori has mentioned, we are going to be talking today about copywriting and specifically about brand storytelling online and how you can use that in your business online to really ramp up your marketing and to share your mission with folks and to really just include more about storytelling in your marketing. So here's actually, I'm going to move this slightly over so you can see if that's possible. There we go. So today's touch points, we are going to be talking about first, we're going to talk about understanding brand storytelling and what it is. The second thing we're going to be talking about is crafting your unique brand story. And the third is how to use brand storytelling across your brand to keep your messaging consistent. So while we're here, I encourage you to grab a pen and a piece of paper, or if you're on your computer, you can use that as well. We are going to be doing some exercises and just getting some ideas flowing during the presentation. So feel free to use that pen and paper anytime that you have any ideas. This presentation will be shared with you afterwards, so don't worry about taking too many notes during it. And of course, if you need to stretch or grab some water, you can do that now while I'm just doing some quick introduction. Let's try this. There we go. So, as Lori mentioned, my name is Maddy. I'm a copywriter who loves ethical and inclusive marketing. I own my own copywriting business, which is called by Maddy Aucoin, and I love working with bold and intentional brands to write feel-good, standout copy for websites and social. So if you don't know what copywriting is, essentially it is just writing marketing materials for websites, for social media captions, for blogs, email newsletters, all that good stuff. It's essentially just the text for your marketing materials. So with the online space continuously growing, you need a way to stand out online. And now more than ever, your audience is craving your humanness. Today, we're going to talk about how to maximize your brand story and really create a roadmap so you can understand how to use your brand story to stand out online. Because the landscape around business is shifting year over year. People really want connection and are really looking to support like-minded brands. I think we saw during the pandemic that people are really looking to support local, they're looking to support small businesses, and also businesses that really align with their values. I think over the course of the pandemic as well, we really learned that people are looking to connect with other people, right? We're all really looking to just connect with one another, and people are really shifting their buying habits to purchase from humans instead of purchasing from large corporations or businesses that they don't know anything about the owner or anything about the business. People really want to feel connected and tapped into your business. So we can do that through brand storytelling. So to give you a quick definition, brand storytelling uses narratives to explain to your audience two things. One, why your brand exists, and the second is why they should purchase from you. So actually, we're going to talk a bit about what kind of brands are using brand storytelling, because it's a very subtle technique that you may not notice. So for example, it's currently being used by larger corporations like Nike and Apple, right? If you're looking at Nike and Apple ads and content, they're consistently telling you stories instead of just showing you promotional, kind of like buy this now content, right? They're showing up in their ads and content, and they're really telling you these stories so they can convince you to be part of their community and convince you to buy their products. They openly share their values, and we can envision ourselves purchasing these products. You get to picture yourself being a part of that. My favorite part of brand storytelling is that it's a more subtle marketing method. You don't necessarily have to feel salesy, as some folks like to call it. You don't necessarily feel like you're being sold to. You feel really connected with the brand. There's also scientific evidence for why brand storytelling works and why we love stories and why as consumers we're attracted to brand stories. So the first example is neuroscience. Our brains are actually hardwired to remember stories. We have relied on stories our entire existence as humans. And if you think about it, every time you gather with your friends or your families, or you're talking with someone online, you're likely sharing stories back and forth, right? So it's really important for us to be able to share those stories, especially because stories are so much easier for us to retain than statistics and facts. For example, if you are, say you're shopping for toothpaste and you're in the toothpaste aisle, you're not likely going to remember that you heard on an ad that 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this one kind of toothpaste. You're more likely to remember that you've had a really good experience with that toothpaste before, or maybe your friends really like that toothpaste and they really liked the whitening features, right? So these stories are much easier for us to understand, and they're easier for us to retain long-term. So they're going to stick with us, and they're going to make us remember how we feel about the brand. The second is trust. So again, as we talked about before, more than ever, consumers want to know the brands that they are purchasing from. They want to understand your values. And so sharing your values and your why, so why you built your brand, why you are invested in creating a better world, or whatever you're looking to do, it really builds trust with your community. And so by sharing your brand story, you're going to continue to build trust with the client or customer that you are looking to reach. And the third one is building connection. So again, touching back to that first point as to how we really always share stories with our friends and with our families and with our communities. Stories always allow us to connect with our audience. And this is a really great one because if folks feel moved by our stories, say for example, I shared a post on Instagram and one of the members of my community saw it, one of my followers saw it, and they decided that they were so moved by it, or they loved it, or they felt really connected to it, they can share it to their stories, or they could tell their network of business friends, and that will continue to expand the reach of my brand story and my brand. So other folks will be exposed to my brand. So as you can kind of see, brand storytelling is a really great way to not only connect with your current customer base and really build that trust and connection with them, but it's also a great marketing material to be able to really expand your reach and to be able to get that story out there. I also like to talk about how brand storytelling can help you avoid unethical copy and sales practices. So we'll talk a little bit about that now. So I am a copywriter who loves talking about ethical practices and inclusive practices in copy. And so of course I had to include a few tidbits in here on unethical copy practices and how brand storytelling can really help to shift away from these practices that are typically quite common in the business industry. They're what a lot of us are taught. And so brand storytelling allows us to really shift away from what we have been taught into something new and something empowering. So before we talk about this, I want to inspire you to take a moment just to think about how you want your clients or customers to feel when they are working with you or going to purchase from you. So if you would like to share, you can drop a sentence or a few words about how you want your clients or customers to feel about their experience with you. I'll share mine while you want to drop yours in the comments. So I want my clients to feel excited. I want them to feel confident. I want them to feel empowered. I want them to feel 100% certain and excited that they want to work with me. I don't want people to come to me because they're scared, and I don't want people to come to me because they think if they don't work with me, then their businesses are going to blow up, right? I want folks to feel like this is the best thing for their business and that they are really confident that I can help them. And so in doing that, we can avoid these unethical copy practices. So we'll go through them and we'll just talk about a few examples that you may have seen before on the internet. So the first example is false scarcity. So this looks like someone saying, there's only one spot left in my program and this program is never running again, so you should join now. It's called false scarcity when the program might run again or it will run again and you know it will, and there's more than one spot left, but obviously folks are using it as a tool to get you to get into their programs as fast as they can. Another example is fear-based marketing. So essentially just talking to people's fears. So for example, if you don't join my program, you'll look back in a year from now and realize you're still in the same place. Obviously that's playing to someone's fears that if they don't take your program, then they're never going to grow and they're never going to become a better business owner. The next one is something I call inspiration without intersectionality. So using phrases like, if I can do it, so can you. Obviously, phrases like that don't consider everyone's experiences and everyone's backgrounds. So it doesn't consider socioeconomic backgrounds or if people have children or education or anything like that. And obviously we can't do everything, all of us, or else everyone would be a business owner and that would be really hard and it probably wouldn't work. So just kind of avoiding those statements. And then income claim marketing is when you see folks making statements like, I made 1.3 million US dollars last year without sharing the transparency, the behind the scenes of understanding where they need that money from in their business and just really looking at the kind of practices they use to do that. So I like to highlight these as something that we can kind of take into stride while we are doing our brand storytelling, and we are going to work on a brand storytelling exercise shortly. But just to kind of take these into stride, just to kind of have them in your mind that these are things to really shift away from. And the beautiful thing about brand storytelling is that it's so organic and it really flows in your marketing that you really don't have to resort to practices like these to sell and to get more customers and to get people to join your community, right? By brand storytelling, you are organically sharing your message and you don't have to resort to unethical copy practices. So now that we've talked a little bit about brand storytelling and why we should do it, we're going to really dive right into brand storytelling structure and how you can go ahead creating your brand story. I know it can be a little bit complicated and a little bit frustrating sometimes to implement new things into your business, especially when it's something that maybe you're hearing for the first time, or it's something that you don't necessarily know how to implement on your own. So I really want to go through this and allow you the time to really think it through and for you to be able to walk away with some tangible prompts and some tangible actions that you can take to really understand how to incorporate brand storytelling into your business, because it's something that is important. It's something that is obviously up and coming because big brands and big corporations are using it. So we can use it too. So I'm going to just introduce the brand storytelling structure to you, and then we'll move through each specific parts and we'll go from there. So the first part of the brand wow, I'm losing my words here. The brand storytelling structure is doing some brand soul searching. So really just looking within, looking at why you created your brand and just really understanding that. The second is knowing your ICA. That stands for Ideal Client Avatar. So really doing some market research and understanding your audience. The third is getting personal. So really diving in deep again into ourselves and just understanding what about our unique experience allows us to connect with our audience. And then the fourth is wrap it up. So we'll take 1, 2, 3, and we'll be able to wrap it up into a narrative. And there I will, again, give some tips on how to actually write a narrative because I know not everyone is super confident in writing story. That's not everyone's expertise. So I will give some tips for that. And then after we are done this section and done really exploring that, we will be able to go into a section and we'll talk about where in your business you can implement brand storytelling. So first, we'll talk about brand story soul searching. So in this section, we'll discover your whys. So essentially in this section, we are really looking to really go within. we're looking to understand why our business does what it does, why we created our business, and really just taking a holistic look at why our business exists and how we help people. So on the left side, okay. On the left side, we have some prompts to consider. So if you want to take the time right now to just, if you have your pen and paper and there are some prompts that you would like to take action on later, feel free to write them down. Again, you will be getting this presentation after, but if you have some ideas right off the top of your head, feel free to write them down or feel free to take some time to take some action on those. So some prompts to consider is, why does your brand exist? So really diving into, why did you create your brand? What makes it important? Another one is, what is your business looking to achieve? So what is your end goal? You know, if you could look at maybe 1 year down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, what is your business looking to achieve and how does it help people? The next is, if someone was going to describe your brand to a friend, how would you want them to describe it? What kind of words would you want them to use? You could describe feelings, however you want this to look. This is totally personal for you. Feel free to do that. So you can also read through any testimonials you have, any kind direct messages you have from Facebook or Instagram or emails, and any customer or client feedback that you have. You can understand, how do people already describe your brand? And then another one is, what do you stand for and what are your brand's values? This is going to help you convey to your target audience what you stand for and how you can help them. And the last one is, why do people support your brand? So why are people following you on Instagram? Why are people liking your page on Facebook? Why are they purchasing your products? Really just understanding what makes you unique and why people are coming together to be part of your community. So really in this section, again, we're really just looking to dive deep to really think about our own role in our brand. And instead of really focusing on the benefits and the features, as we typically tend to do with our businesses. For example, folks who post a photo of a t-shirt from their t-shirt business and just say, like, this is a screen printed shirt and it's made of cotton. Instead of just focusing on the logistics and the benefits, we're also really bringing in those emotions, right? Because folks are either a logistical buyer or an emotional buyer. And so we want to combine all of it so that all folks everywhere are really feeling supported and seen by our marketing. The second is, we're doing a brand story, know your ideal client avatar. So we're doing some market research to understand what your clients or customers want and how you bring that to them. And specifically how your brand or business uniquely brings that to your target audience. So if you've already done market research for your business, which you likely have, you can definitely draw all these answers from market research that you've already done. But if you haven't done market research already, I would encourage you to, again, look through those testimonials, look through the feedback. Feel free to hop on some calls with some prospective clients or some folks who have already purchased from you, and just get that information. Feel free to start that conversation and to figure out why people support you and how you can continue to improve their lives. So, prompts to consider. What are your customers or clients' challenges? So what are they uniquely struggling with that you are able to help with? The second is, how do you help clients or customers overcome their challenge in a way that's unique to your brand? So for example, there are probably thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of copywriters out there. So what makes me and my business unique in the way that it helps my clients overcome their challenges? So again, that touches back on the first, where I can dive into myself and my business and really focus on that. And again, I can also reach out to clients and customers and ask them, how did I help you overcome your challenges in a way that you haven't experienced before? The third one would be, why do your clients or customers gravitate towards your brand? Again, there's something unique there that people are drawn to, and they really just want to be part of your community, and it's important to figure out why. And then last, look at your customer testimonials. How did you improve your clients or customer businesses or lives? And how did you make them feel? All of these aspects are really important to take note of if you're doing your market research, if you are, thinking independently on your own through it. It's important to take note of these things because these will be really helpful when you are crafting your brand story narrative. And then we talk a little bit about getting personal. So just to re-outline, we've done our first step, which is really just understanding how we as a business are able to convey what is unique and our why about our business. The second step is really looking at our customers and our clients and their experiences and how we can convey that to our audience. And so the third step now is really getting personal about ourselves to highlight what makes us and our business different. This section, I definitely recommend doing a little check-in with yourself to see what personal details you feel comfortable with sharing. Of course, everything is a discussion about boundaries with yourself. So if you don't feel comfortable sharing that you have pets, for example, or if you have children, then you don't need to share that, of course. So feel free to check in with yourself and see what feels comfortable with you and in the current moment. So when you're thinking about these personal details, you can think about details like your credentials. So if you did a specific college program, so for example, at the beginning, Lori told you all that I did an English degree, one English degree, one history degree. So that obviously is one of my credentials. If you have any experience, if you have any certifications, etc. Another one is your inspiration to start your business. So really just thinking about maybe that moment that led you to start your business. If you kind of hit a wall and you were fed up and you decided, you know what, it's time for me to start my business. That's a really great moment for you to highlight as well. Your personal process for your work. So again, just really tapping into what makes you unique. So if you are a service provider, for example, I'm a copywriter, my personal process of walking my clients through their copywriting and their brand storytelling will look completely different than another copywriter or a content writer. So just being able to highlight that to really share with folks why my brand is unique and why my process is very supportive and is able to help them overcome their challenges. Another one is personal hobbies that may or may not link to your business. So for example, reading, hiking, etc. Just really tying those kind of human aspects in. And then again, just any relatable human details that you feel comfortable with sharing. So owning pets, having children, anything like that that feels comfortable for you. Obviously, there is different levels of comfort for everyone who wants to share their brand story, and just really making sure that you're including the most necessary details and details that make sense, as opposed to sharing your entire life story, which if you want to, you are welcome to, but I personally probably wouldn't recommend. And then here are some tips to just wrap that brand story up into a narrative. We're going to take all the information that we gathered in steps 1 to 3, and we're going to focus on writing a cohesive narrative. So some things to remember when writing your brand story is just to keep it simple. Don't make it focus on so many details and, you're not able to keep the story straight, or, you're talking about details that don't necessarily matter to your audience. You want to keep it really simple and ensure that it follows a logical storyline, so that folks can follow it nice and easily. Again, probably shouldn't be your entire life story. Keep it short, keep it simple, so that folks can really remember those details and feel like they're in community with you. Another one is just making it personal. I know I have thought in the past about brand storytelling as though reading someone's about page on their website that doesn't feel personal. So for example, when people write like, Maddy Aucoin is a copywriter from Kitchener, Ontario, she blah, blah, blah. So I like to make it a little bit more personal using like I or we, and really just incorporating my own tone of voice into it and just making it feel like my audience is able to connect with me in that way. And then the third one is what interests your audience. We talked a little bit about this in step 3, but really just looking over what is interesting to your audience. What is your audience going to pick up on, and what are they going to want to connect with? So for example, maybe your audience isn't going to connect with the fact that you love dogs. Maybe we could just leave that part out of your brand story if we don't feel like it's relevant, right? And maybe your audience is really interested in the fact that you are a parent then of course, include that in your brand story. Your brand story is about you, but also it needs to interest your audience so that they can feel connected to you and your brand. This is probably my most helpful tip in terms of actually writing a narrative, and it is just to follow a logical storyline. So if you think about stories that you wrote in elementary school, high school, university, college, whatever that looks like for you, or if you write them casually on your own, think about the storylines that you follow. So for example, I like to follow the and then. So something happens and then something else happens, and then something else happens. So you're really just following that really clear storyline so people can follow the action and really understand what your brand story is about. So I would definitely recommend following that so that you have a logical storyline and you're not kind of jumping all over the place if you're sharing that. And then of course, if you have personal details that you want to share about yourself, you're welcome to share that in like a sentence or two at the bottom if you want to talk about your hobbies or your dog or whatever you feel is relevant. And number 5 is to ask a trusted friend to review. I think this is a very overlooked aspect of marketing in general, but specifically writing and copywriting is not getting a second pair of eyes to review your content. So this will really help in terms of ensuring that you're following a logical storyline and making sure that it sounds like you, right? Making sure that it's actually drawing in your audience and it's actually engaging. So if you have a trusted friend or a trusted business owner that you know, feel free to ask them to review it. And then the last one is just to keep your tone consistent. Again, kind of just tying back into that second point of making it personal. We really want the audience to feel like they know you in some way. And so you want to be able to make it sound like you and not like a robot or an AI bot is writing it. So just focusing on keeping that tone consistent and to really ensure that you always sound like yourself is really one of the keys to writing a brand story. So the last part is just talking about where to include your brand story. It can seem really overwhelming to start really incorporating a brand story. I know most people think that a brand story kind of just belongs on your about page on your website, and that's really it. But the beauty of brand storytelling is that you can use it everywhere to really create a cohesive narrative about your brand. So the one thing I will say about brand storytelling is that it's a little bit more involved. It's really intertwined between all of these touch points. So you can see all of these different touch points, all of these different experiences that people are going to have with your brand. The beauty of brand storytelling is that someone who discovers you on a podcast, for example, or through social media is going to be able to have and to know the same brand story as if they see you on your website or in your email newsletter. So folks are always going to be able to get that same experience of you and to have that same knowledge, which is really great. So definitely the hardest part, don't feel discouraged, is to really get it all started and really to incorporate all of these touch points. I will say, it's really important to not, get out of this presentation and stop everything that you're doing and overhaul every single one of these things to include your brand story. I would recommend actually slowly integrating it. So for example, maybe this week you create some content on social media talking about your process. And then maybe next week you create a value statement for your website, and then you include it in your social media highlights on Instagram, right? It's going to take time and it's an involved process, but over time, your audience is going to have all of these touch points. They're going to be able to refer you, and they're going to have all of these spaces to be able to know your brand, no matter where they interact with you. So over time, it will feel really organic to have all of these pieces. But right now, it's probably going to take some time to implement. But don't worry, I have a resource for you. So brand storytelling everywhere. So again, brand storytelling can and should be part of every touch point in your brand experience. You can consider these to be starting points or inspiration for your own brand storytelling experience for your business. So these are some great examples I like to use because I know for some folks, brand storytelling and other marketing concepts can be really abstract, and it's hard to know how to actually implement them into your business. So again, you'll have access to this presentation later, so feel free to take these ideas and to implement them in your business. And again, I would definitely recommend taking a slow approach and slowly starting to incorporate these aspects across your channels so that folks are able to really refer to your brand story and how consistent it is and how connected they feel to it and at every stage of their experience. So talking about social media, some ways that you can incorporate your brand story. You can do some Instagram highlights. So for example, you could do an Instagram highlight about your brand values. You could talk about why you started your business. You could talk about your process, anything like that. In terms of writing captions for Instagram, or even if you're writing tweets, you can take bite-sized pieces of the copy that you've already written for your website and just repurpose it. That's one of my favorite secrets about brand stories, is that once you've written it, you can really just pull pieces from it and plug them into different spaces across platforms, on your website, email newsletters, social media, everywhere, so that it's always consistent, but you're not constantly writing a story, right? You have resources that you can continually access over and over, so you're not continuously starting from scratch. And then finally, if you like to do short form videos, so if you like to do Reels or TikTok or whatever feels good for you, or Facebook Lives, you can do those so that your audience can get to know you and get to know some of those touch points. In terms of a website, I think the most obvious one is using an about page. So you can use that space to really tell your entire brand story and then really just share parts of it. As I mentioned, really repurpose it across your platforms and to repurpose across your website in small sections. The second would be just to share your unique process on your services page. So, or if you're a product-based business, on your product page, you can talk about your unique process to create your products or to source your products or whatever that looks like. Really just sharing what makes you as a business owner unique and what makes your brand, so that folks can understand and see the value in that and can really picture themselves working with you. The next one would be to add your brand values. So this could be things like if you really value integrity, or if you really value communication, or if if there's other things that you really value in your brand. This just kind of gives folks an opportunity to review it. And if they feel like it's aligned, obviously it would be a really great experience to work with you or to purchase from you. The last one on this one is to share testimonials and real experience that your clients or customers have from working with you or purchasing from you. Obviously, the words of your clients and your customers are really important, specifically if they have positive things to say about you. And it's really important that you are able to kind of leverage these on your website. You can also take any testimonials and these experiences of working with you, and you can share them on your social media, your email newsletters, and really just cross-use them. Because then it's not only you telling people what the experience is and how incredible your brand is, but it's also other folks who have experienced your brand, who are telling other people how much they love their brand, right? So the final one is email newsletters. So if you do any lead magnets or any freebies, so for example, if someone signs up for your email newsletter and they get a freebie or a discount or anything like that, you can add a page or a small section about you, about your process, and really just incorporating your brand story in there. That way, you're giving them value, you're giving your audience value, but you're also giving them some information about your brand. So when they return to that value, that discount or that lead magnet, they're able to really think about and to consider what working with you could look like if they decide to. The next one would be a welcome sequence over email. So typically this looks like a 3 to 5 email sequence. When someone signs up for your email newsletter, they will over time receive emails from you just welcoming to their list and getting them kind of warmed up to what you offer. This is a really great space to incorporate your brand storytelling at different touch points. This one's a little bit more of a complicated one that we probably wouldn't have time to dive fully into, but just know that a welcome sequence, if you want to do some more research into it, if you don't already have one, is a really great way to incorporate your brand story. And the last one, this one's a big one, is regularly sending non-promotional content. I know it is typically thought that we send email newsletters as a way to promote our services and our products, and just share, our sales and what we're doing with our brands. But it's actually really helpful to be able to send that non-promotional content to the people on your list, specifically because it will encourage more folks to open it more often if you're not always selling in your emails. No one really likes to open all the emails that they get from Old Navy, for example, that say like a different sale at least every day. That's what it feels like to me. But if you are regularly sending non-promotional emails or emails that are really looking to connect and to engage and to educate your list about the things that you are doing and about your brand story, is a really great way to get folks to continue to be engaged with your list so that they can open emails that are actually promotional when you do send them. So that is it for me. I did want to leave some extra time for us to be able to really work through those prompts and for folks to ask questions. Again, since this is such a touch point heavy subject, I do like to leave a lot of space for folks to ask questions and to be able to feel like if you have questions about certain things, or if you want to get my opinion on something, I am more than happy to do that. But this is my contact information if you would like to connect further or follow me on Instagram or whatever that looks like for you. And yeah, so that's it for me in terms of, I'll stop sharing. There we go. That's it for me in terms of presentation. So if anyone has any questions or wants me to go back to something, or if there's anything that you want to share, I'm open for that.
Okay, sounds good. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute right now. I don't see any questions in the chat. Monica?
Yeah, I'm just currently working on my brand story. And I'm just wondering, because I am getting stuck on that part of like adding too much information and taking stuff out. And then, how you said, and I'm trying to go in that order. And I'm just wondering, like lengthwise, like, should it really be something like a minute? Like if I was actually having a conversation, it should feel like it's just like a very quick sort of story, or like what do you suggest for that?
Yeah, I hate saying it depends. So I will try to give as concise of an answer as possible. But I really do love the way that you share that you are really looking to, kind of pare it down to a minute and have, it's kind of like a conversation with someone, right? I really like that you described it as that, because that is how you want to feel. You want to feel like you're having a conversation with the person who owns the brand. And again, yes, the shorter but with some details is preferable. I like to always think of it as someone's about page on their website. That's typically the length that I always shoot for, is one long paragraph or a few shorter paragraphs. And then again, depending on where you're publishing it, you can always add more details or take details out, right? If you're publishing little pieces of it in your social media captions, for example, you're able to really pare that down. And then if you need to add some more details, you absolutely can. And then if you need to take them out, of course, you can do that too. But yes, I would definitely recommend keeping it to like a long paragraph or a few shorter paragraphs. And then again, really just relying on a trusted friend or another business owner to be able to go through that and tell you if there are too many details or maybe not enough details. Definitely relying on someone else to be able to give you that feedback, I think is really important. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it definitely gives me a better sense, because sometimes, I am the story, so it's like, I think certain things are important, but
yeah,
somebody else is reading it, they're probably like, I didn't even need to know that you went back and then you figured it out. You could just say I figured it out, right? But thank you. And by the way, the Old Navy emails are insane. Thank you that you brought that up, because I'm like, how do people live with a sale every day? It's like sale on socks, sale on shirts, sale on sweaters.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's the thing, is I don't even open them anymore. And I just assume that Old Navy has a sale at this point, whenever I go.
I have a question. Hi. I'm Nectar V. I apologize. I'm only on voice at this point because I'm driving.
Yeah.
When I think about my brand story, part of my challenge is that, so I make soaps and bath bombs and stuff. And then I also make molds to make bath bombs. So my customers are both people who use bath bombs and soaps, but others who also make bath bombs to sell. So my challenge is that the reason I started making the molds is that I was like, wow, I'm spending a lot of money buying molds. Maybe I'll figure out how to design them myself. And then I did, and people were like, you should sell them. And so that's actually the primary part of my business now, is selling the molds. But I don't want to in my story be like, I was spending too much money on molds, so now I'm going to have you spend too much money on molds with me. You know, like there's other benefits to it, but that's really how I started. And so, I struggle with that part of my story, right?
Right.
I don't think it's an attractive part of the story. It's the truth, but it's, just kind of curious of your thoughts.
For sure. I think it really depends again on the story, but I think you can position it in a way, of course, that is truthful, because that is obviously very important. You don't want to lie in your brand story. That would be weird and unethical. But you could talk about maybe if you were struggling to potentially find molds that were specific and helpful for your business, or if you were, if you were tired of really looking for molds and just really struggling to find some, or you could just say like it in a, again, more attractive way of, looking for molds and couldn't find them at a price point that I was specifically looking for. Another option, I'm not sure how you have your website laid out, but you could potentially have a section above your page where you sell the molds. You could just have because if people aren't going to buy the molds, they probably aren't going to go to that page on your website. And then you could just talk about it there, like why you were interested in really creating and selling these molds there. It's really up to you how you want to pursue it. But my best advice would be to obviously be truthful as much as possible. However, I think there are some ways that you can make it sound better if you're worried about it not sounding great. You can either incorporate it on another page that's specifically for business owners who are looking to purchase molds, or realistically, you can just kind of edit it down a little bit to not include that point, the specific point about price, if you don't want to on your actual about page. But there's a few avenues that you can take there, and it's completely up to you. But that's how I would probably go about it. I would probably just include the information on the pages that are for the molds specifically, if that makes you feel good.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. No, I hadn't thought about, I didn't do it because I was trying to save money. It was more like I was just buying a ton of molds because I love molds. So maybe I need to focus more on, I loved molds so much, I wanted to start making them or something like that. Right. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I guess somewhat related to what she was talking about, like for a new starting business, the ICA, you said it was individual client avatar, you said?
Yes, so it's your ideal client avatar. So essentially, who are you looking to sell to? If you could pick any person or any group to target your services to, what would that look like, and who would that person be? Of course, it's going to vary. Your ideal client avatar is not always going to be the one who purchases your service. It's just the kind of group of people that you're envisioning in your mind who would be a dream client or a dream customer and would just absolutely love your product or service.
Now, is it for someone starting out, like I've read where you really have to niche it and say, okay, her name's Lisa and she's, a middle-aged mom, her kids are in, like, if I have kind of like 2 or 3 target avatars, like if you're starting out, do I really have to like, is it more beneficial to just really zoom in on that one specific client, or is it okay to have, 2 targets or 3 targets when you're starting out? And
yes, it is totally fine to have multiple. I would say no more than 2 to 3 is probably max. In my own business, I have 2 to 3 ideal client avatars just based on what I offer in my business. So for example, a business owner who isn't making a ton of money a year, probably isn't going to be interested in the packages that I offer that are worth thousands of dollars. So definitely just kind of being able to really target specifically who you want to sell for, and who you want to sell to. And it's totally okay to have more than one. Again, I would recommend 2 to 3, 3 being the max, and being able to specifically niche what your offerings are to each specific audience, if that makes sense. So for example, going back to the previous example where we were talking about like skincare and bath bombs, if you had certain bath bombs who were, your ideal client avatar would be, for example, I don't know, a parent who has children who's really looking for natural ingredients in their skincare. And if you're selling, molds, obviously your ideal client isn't going to be the same as the mom who's buying skincare for their child. It's going to be a business owner who's looking to grow or scale or simplify their business there. So long answer short, yes, you can absolutely have more than one ideal client avatar, especially if you have different things that you are looking to offer for different audiences at different price points.
In that case, do you have like 2 or 3 social media platforms in a different way to target? Do you have 3 sections on your website, or are you able to like cover most of them in one posting?
Yeah, so mine's all on one platform, all on one website. So essentially how I do it is on social media or my email newsletters if I am looking to market a specific product on Instagram. So for example, if I'm looking to market those more expensive packages, then I am using language and really looking to draw in the folks who are looking to purchase those more high ticket offers. Whereas if I'm selling, looking to sell like memberships to a community that I'm creating, then I'm going to be speaking more to another audience. I'm going to be speaking to entrepreneurs who are looking to be part of a community who don't necessarily want to invest in those packages. So the nice thing about a brand story is that you can really reach all of those people. The language that you use may be a little bit different depending on what your target is for that specific package or that specific offering, but it will all still sound like you in the same voice and the same tone, just the language that you use to convey that will be different, if that makes sense.
Maddy, do you have your contact information that you could drop in the chat with your website and email?
Yes.
Please. The other question,
Lori,
sorry,
sorry, it's Nectaria. Sorry. Do we automatically get the presentation, or do we send you a note to get this presentation?
You know what, I
could be helpful to refer to.
Yeah, if you know what, just to make sure I don't, you know what I mean? I know there's a couple of people that have asked, but if you want, send me, I made a note here. Others, if you want the presentation, send me an email and I'll get the recording today and then I'll send it out to you. My other question was for Maddy was the slide deck. Would you be able to share that as well? Okay, and then when I send out the recording, I'll send out the slide deck as well.
I find that's really helpful since some of the prompts are a little bit more hands-on so that folks can really refer back to it as they need to.
Great. And are you in Kitchener?
I am.
Oh, okay. Barbara was just asking.
Sorry, if I just gonna pipe up. Thank you. I just asked because I'm in Guelph, and yeah, I was just wondering.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to you.
Thank you. That is so lovely.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been in Guelph for? Sorry, I don't want to sidetrack the.
Well, I grew up here. I was actually born in Kitchener. A lot of my family's still in Kitchener. Yeah. And then I grew up outside of Guelph, but I left for 25 years. So I've been back here for about a decade downtown. Nice. Yeah.
We just moved from North Bay. We're from up north last fall, and so now we're settling down into to Kitchener, and we love it here. So
Nice. I'll contact you for sure.
okay.
I see a circle
Great
starting.
presentation. Thank you very much. Really, really good stuff.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for this information. I mean, that's it's all that other stuff that we think about, right? I mean, everybody kind of jumps into the advertising or the, the marketing that way, but sometimes you don't really think about all those stories behind, right? So
For sure.
it was a really valuable information or webinar and information. So I thank you so much for joining us today, and we'd love to have you back again. Maybe we can plan some other webinars for the new year.
For sure. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me and for listening and for sharing all of your questions. Again, my email is in the chat if you do have any specific questions that you'd like to reach out, or if you started your story and you need some guidance as to where to go next. So
perfect. Well, thanks again, Maddy. Appreciate it. And thanks everybody for joining us today, and wish you all a great day.